So I'll need to cut away 15 millimeters on each side. I don't have a cutter that wide, so I'll just do it in multiple passes. I'll take, say, 10 the first time. I went over to side milling this because it made less vibration on this little machine. And I have quite some metal to take off, so it makes a difference if we can take double the amount in one go. So that was the last cut on this side. Now we just need to make the same profile over here. And then we need to remove some material in the back and drill some holes. And then it should be finished. So now there is room for the front screws here and here. And we need to remove this material back here so we can have two screws in the middle also. So the front here is going to be 4 centimeters and the overall length is 8.5. So we definitely don't need more than this. So now I'm going to remove material from the 4 centimeter point and back to this line. So that should be enough. Now I'm just going to make a very light pass across all the bottom surfaces here so they get exactly the same height, and so they're going to look a little bit nicer. So now I'm going to cut out the middle of this so that we can hold the vertical piece in place that should then connect to the handle. So it fits in, but it's a little bit looser than I wanted it to be. It's probably about 1/10 of a millimeter wider than this piece. It doesn't really matter. So now we need to make these 4 holes and then chop off the back end. So now I'm going to flip it around and put some parallels under it and then measure the length of it and then chop it off with an end mill. And oops, I think I used the wrong end of the part. But luckily no one's going to see it because it's on the bottom. So now it is complete except for the holes that go the other direction here. And to drill the holes I'm going to hold it this way. So I'm going to find this edge, then move in 10 millimeters for the first hole, and find this edge, move in 5 millimeters. And then the holes are spaced 10 millimeters apart, so I'll get 3 holes. I'm going to start with a 3.3 millimeter drill bit and drill all the way through with that, because I want to tap the bottom part of it. And then I'm going to drill the top part 4 millimeters so the bolt can go through. So this part is done. I just need to deburr the edges a little bit, but we got the frets on this side and the 4 millimeter hole on this side. And now we should be able to put this screw in and still be able to get this one in. Yep. And it seems to fit nicely. So now we just need to mark and punch and drill and tap these holes. And then all that's left is to make this vertical piece and then the handle to go this way. So I just measured out and punched the holes, just the same as all the others, and now I'll just go and drill and tap them. And I believe I already showed the other side, so it will be exactly the same as that. And for the handle I got this piece here, which is just about the right length. I went and made the vertical piece here. It's just a flat piece of aluminium. It wasn't really that exciting. Then I drilled the 3 holes for it, just put it in here and drilled through. I played around with this piece before, so it has this hole for a set screw and it has a hole down in the middle, but we'll need to mill out 10 millimeters in the middle of this anyway, so that the handle can fit on here. So that gets rid of this hole also if we put it in the right orientation in the mill. So I might as well just reuse this. So I have this V in the vise here that I can use to hold the piece, like that. But if I just tighten down on it, then the hardened jaws here will just bite into the nice aluminium. I don't have any softer jaws for the vise, so I'll use a piece of paper and that will hopefully take the worst of the marks. So that was 5 centimeters, that should be plenty. We'll need to mill a little bit more than 4 centimeters because the cutter is round, and to get 4 centimeters of square part we'll need to add the radius of the cutter, which will be 5 millimeters, so we need to go 45. So now I'll find the edge with the edge finder here, and then we can mill the slot in the center. But I think I'll go ahead and mill some flats on the sides here first, so we have something to drill into when we need to make the holes that should clamp on the vertical piece. So I was just wondering if I took too much off the sides here, but I still have 5mm in each side after I mill the center slot, so that should be more than enough. So I think this edge in here, I'm going to round that off with a ball end mill to give it kind of the same shape as this end here. They won't line up completely and they don't have the same radius, but I guess it will look prettier if we do it that way. And that's it. So now we have to drill holes into this side, and to do that we need to flip it 90 degrees. The easiest way to do that, I think, is to just make it stick out a little bit further. And then use a square on the table here. So now this looks pretty square to me. It's good enough. We're just going to use it for fastening the vertical piece. So this is not the best setup, as you can see. These can flex quite a lot, but it should work as long as I'm just a bit careful. So that should be it. I just need to tap them, and then I think I'll just face the other end in the mill here, so I'll just flip the part. Oops, I forgot to turn on the camera, but I just went past it a couple of times, and now it's nice and square. So the handle here was the last of the mechanical parts, except for the feet. Of course we also need to make those. But I think now, before we go any further, we should assemble it and see if it actually fits together. So this bracket was a little bit tight to get on. I had to loosen these two to get these to grip. I think it's because this front one is a little bit off. But if I just put these two in first, it seems okay. Okay, so that's it. The first hole here is a little bit off also, so I can't get the last screw in. It's not much, but I'll just have to file the hole a little bit so the screw will go through. But apart from that, it's not that bad, I think. It's not really too heavy. You can definitely feel there's some weight to it, but right now it's a little bit front heavy, even though I hold it all the way to the front here. But we also get about 1 kilo of batteries here, so when those get in, I should be able to just hold it normally by the handle here. So with the batteries in place, it's actually perfectly level, but I do have to hold it all the way to the front. If I move it to the middle of the handle, you can see it does tip a little bit down. So I just wanted to do a little test here. I mounted 2 LEDs on the flashlight, as you can see, and I hooked up a regulator and a battery. So this will be 1/9 of the total power when we are finished with the flashlight. I just wanted to see how quickly the heat sinks heat up at 200 watts. That should give me a rough idea how long I can be using it at 1800 watts. I didn't mount the fans though, because that wouldn't be fair. They could probably keep the whole thing cold. So I'm going to record my mess over there. And I just changed the exposure to manual exposure, so you can see now it looks normal. And that's with about 60 watts of fluorescent lighting. And now when I plug the flashlight in, it gets a little bit brighter, as you can see. So if we kinda normalize to this, and then I pull the power, it gets a little bit darker. So I ran it for 10 minutes now, and it's not even, it's just lukewarm. It's just a little bit warmer than my hand now, and the handle is still cold. So it seems to work. Of course, it's going to make a huge difference when we get the other 16 LEDs on there. But we're also getting the fans then, so we'll get a little bit more cooling than we have now. And now I just marked all the heat sinks and punched them with the center punch. And now I'm going to drill them 3.3 millimeters and then tap them 4 millimeters. It will be again exactly the same as all the other 4 millimeter holes. And that's it. They are drilled and tapped. Now I just need to take the bottom plate off the flashlight and then mark it and drill those holes also. So I'll be putting them there. I'm planning on having the switch in the back here, so I just made sure there was enough room. Or actually I'm going to have 3 switches. One for the main power, which will also turn on the middle 6 LEDs, and then 2 switches to turn on additional LEDs. So that's the plan, and I'm going to unscrew this bottom plate now. So I got those 8 holes made, and the regulators are going to mount like this, and I now have this much room for my switches, which you can see should be plenty. So I just screwed the regulators on and loosely placed the batteries on top, so we can see what it's going to look like. We will get the fans here also, but apart from that, it almost looks like what it's going to. I went and made this connector for the batteries. They need to be hooked up in series, so this is what this will do. Then I connect the ground wire to all the regulators to the negative here, and then the positive will go off to the switch. I already screwed in some ground wires here, so now I'll just join those and solder it to this. I think for the next step I'll be making the holes in this plate for the switches. So I'll have the main switch and I'll have 2 smaller switches for the other LEDs. And I think I said before that I would have 6 turn on at a time. There's really no way I can do that, because these are going to run 4 each, and then there's only one that's going to run 6. So I'll have the 6 LEDs turn on with this one, and then I'll probably go 4 and 8 on the last 2 switches. I probably could fit 3 switches and then go 6, 4, 4, 4, but yeah, there's not really a reason to do that, because if we can switch on 4 and 8, that gives the same options as having 3 switches for 4 LEDs, because if we turn on 1, that's 4. If we turn on 1 more, that's 8. Then we could just have switched off the 4 and turned on the 8 if we only have 2 switches. And if we turn on all 3, that's 12, and that's the same as the 4 and the 8, both on. So this is what it's going to look like. The main switch, and then we can do 4 more and 8 more. But this will also turn on these if these are on, so this is yeah, the main switch. So these switches are rated for 20 amps, and I'm going to pull 12 amps through the one which has these 2 switches, if they were wired directly to the LEDs, but we have the converters in between, which are boost converters, so they will take more than that. And that's very likely going to be more than 20 amps. So I can't pull that through this single switch. I think what I'll do instead is just to wire all the positive wires up to these switches, and then each of these 4 I'll wire to the converters. That way I should not be pulling too much current. Then instead this one will be controlling 8, this one 6, and this one 4.